such a weird box. Whatever. That's fine though. As long as I can see you guys, I'm good.
We'll figure. Yeah, we're good.
Okay, you can start whenever you're ready.
Okay, so let's call a meeting to order at what, 6:01? And I guess the first thing we have to do is approve the minutes from last month. So can we do that? What is that?
Yes, I approve.
Okay, so they're approved. Yes?
Wait, Shelley, was that a motion?
Yeah.
That was an approval, yes.
Is there a second?
Second, yep.
Thank you, Mark. And then 3 ayes.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so we don't have much going on, but it's pretty important though with Sally's tree. We did get approval, which is great. Thank you, Alana. And I was hoping Michelle would be here because I think we really need her for a few things, but so we need to get a tree. And Mark, you did some work, you did some investigating with prices and stuff. So where is that with Manza still?
Yeah, so Manza actually has a pretty across the board price on trees based on size. They're running between 100 and 150 for 1 to 1.5 inch caliper.
Those are in containers, correct?
Those are in containers, and then if you go up to the next size, if you go to 2 to 2.5, I think is their nominal size. Some of them are pretty generous size.
Yeah.
If you go to that size, they are ball and burlap, and they are around 250 to 300 depending on the species. But for most deciduous shade trees, rather than run down the whole list, they did not have a ton of unusual stuff, but they had swamp white oak, they had red oak hybrids, they had a lot of the October Glory and Autumn Fire hybrid maples that we've talked about. They've had Zelkova. They did have, when I was there, they had one Zelkova. They had a Kentucky Coffee, which is an interesting tree. I don't know what your thoughts on that are, Dwight, but what else did they have? I'm just running through the list in my head. I did take some pictures, which I can forward to everybody to give you a sense of what we're looking.
If this is a memorial tree,
Yeah.
really you want something tried and true. You want something dependable. You don't want 3 or 5 years down the road having an issue with a tree that's not necessarily native to the area. So I would stick with the oaks and the maples.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's going in Peace Park, there are other pin oaks and there's other swamp white oaks there. It will fit in nicely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So which one, oak or maple?
Maple.
Anybody else? Dwight.
I like the idea of the colored maples. I would like an interesting tree.
Yeah, Dwight, what do you feel about? I mean, my general experience, and I guess what I'm hearing from some folks is not to plant sugar maples anymore in this area. That sugar maples are susceptible to, they're going to be susceptible to future climate change, and basically, they're not going to thrive here in.
Well,
20 years.
I would disagree with you there, but sugar maple is a less tolerant maple. So, it's not a great idea in places where there may be disturbance, salt from the roadways, any kind of excavation.
So we agree for different.
What about the red maple though? The rubrum is not the sugar, right?
Rubrum is not sugar, and rubrum tends to do pretty well. We have some rubrum on Woodland Pond property that seem like they're doing okay. We get better performance out of the hybrids. They're a little more durable. They have that hybrid vigor, but they are hybrids. They're not pure. I think some of them are actually hybrids with Norway maple, which is not anyone's favorite. But the hybrids themselves don't seem to be have the invasiveness of the Norway maples. So whatever their parentage is, I don't know that the companies that hybridize them, advertise really heavily exactly how they made them. But similar to the hybrid oaks, the hope is that they have a little bit of increased disease resistance and a little bit of decreased sensitivity to environmental conditions. So I happen to really like the autumn fires and the October glories. They're good trees.
Yeah, I have some on the property at 8, and they're really, they've grown very well.
Something beautiful that stands out, that it's a memorial tree, instead of it just blends in with everything else that's there. I would rather have one of the, red, the ones that are gorgeous. That's my vote. So.
Well, the red maple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you think, Dwight?
I'm fine with that.
All right. Good. So
Has anybody consulted with her husband?
no, I haven't. I mean,
He might have 2 cents to throw in.
Yeah, that's a nice idea. I was actually gonna ask. I don't know if we can start talking about this yet, but do you want to have some kind of, I don't know if we want to say a ceremony, but do you want to invite her husband or people who knew her to come when it's planted or something? I feel like we'd have to orchestrate with DPW for that, but I don't know how much of a thing you want it to be when you're.
I think that's appropriate and fitting and nice. And are we going to have a plaque on the tree? I believe we should, I think.
yeah, that
On
can
the tree or just in front of it, on the
not on the tree.
ground in front of it, not on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, in front of it,
Yeah.
just like they have at the library. The
Yeah, that's
oak,
what I was-
the elm.
I mean, my thought, again, it's open for discussion, to get the thing in. And then maybe in the spring, if we get a plaque or something, then then the powers that be, the village board can do something. I just want the tree, and it's cool to have some ceremony, but I'm not really good at that stuff.
I'll email Ariana and see what she thinks the village board would kind of want to do. If they would want to just have DPW plant it now, and then we could do something in the spring for it or something like that. I'll see what Ariana.
Yeah. That sounds great.
I
to me.
think that would be fine. I'm just interested in getting it in for the fall planting.
But is there anyone who knows her husband, or is there an email address or a phone number, or?
I mean, I could.
His name is Bill Rhodes, and
Oh,
he is a professor at the college.
okay.
Well, I knew her quite well from the many years she was in the New Paltz Garden Club, even though on her, the blurbs they wrote about her, it never mentioned that, but she was a very active member of the New Paltz Garden Club for very many years, Sally Rhodes.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew her very well. She was a real sweetheart.
Well, I can reach out to her husband if that would be okay with everyone, and just let him know. I'm sure he'd be, I can't imagine he would be opposed to it, but I suppose.
No, I'm sure he'd be happy.
And it's
But I
what-
suggested it because maybe he has an inkling into what she enjoyed the maples, the coloration of the fall. She enjoyed the oaks because of their sturdiness, or, he may have some insight.
Okay,
That's a good idea.
all right.
Let him, why not? Let him have a say.
So if he is saying that he's happy with what our choice is, could we just say that we're going to get a red maple from Manza? Is that good?
Sure. That's good for me.
And if it's anything else, I'll get in touch with everybody via email, and then we can maybe, before next meeting, just come up with a tree. I think that 2 to 2.5 caliper is the way to go. And if it's under $500, we don't have to go through DPW. So that's also nice. We don't have to.
Yeah.
You know,
So,
And-
you're sorry to interrupt. So you're saying like a red hybrid, not like necessarily the straight species, or are you saying that we should do the straight species?
well, you were saying the autumn glory that's a cultivar. Is that a hybrid or a cultivar?
I think Autumn Glory might be a cultivar, and I think that Autumn Fire is a hybrid. And again, I don't know what the mix is.
Yeah.
So Autumn Glory is a fine tree. So
Okay.
any of the cultivars
All right.
should be
Yeah.
outstanding.
All right. I just wanted to make sure that I was not mishearing or misunderstanding. So Manza's will deliver to us for $100.
Okay.
It's probably worth it just to
Oh, yeah.
make it a less complicated process. They'll bring it right to the park and set it down right, on the curb at the park.
Right.
And so then DPW can take it from there. So then we're talking, I think it'll be about $350. We need a tax exempt certificate. And honestly, as soon as they'll sell it to me. As soon as we have approval, I can go down and pick it out, or anybody can go down and pick it out, or come down with me. We pick it out, tag it, and then then when we cut them a check, they'll deliver it. That's kind of what we've done with them in the past. They're pretty easy with that in regards to that.
That sounds great. I would actually like to go also with you.
Yeah,
Great. If it's possible, and
Totally.
I can find out how to do that tax exempt, whatever, however
Yeah.
we do that. I guess I'd have to get a check from our budget. So who's the budget person, Alana?
So you'd probably want to talk to Treasury, because they would end up cutting the checks, or like I would end up processing an invoice from these places, and I would fill out a PO through the Treasury, and it would go through the shade tree line, and the money would come out that way. And then Treasury would mail the check to wherever it needs to go.
Who's Treasury? Who what
So
person?
Nancy or Roseanne.
Nancy
But
or-
I can reach out to one of them in the morning and ask how we do that. That would just take a quick phone call.
Okay, that's great. And then we would
I'll look into it.
thanks. We'd have to coordinate with DPW to get.
Yeah, like I'll talk to Heather, because Heather probably knows. I'll like CC a bunch of people, and someone will have the answer.
Okay, great.
Great.
Oh, terrific. The other thing, and I don't even know what to do with that great survey that we got. We have all this information about trees that need help, and I don't know how to go about dealing with that. That's why I was hoping Michelle could be here. What do we do with it? I have not reached out to George Profis because I wanted to have something to tell him.
Yeah, he emailed me and asked what was going on with the Tree City application, which Heather is working on renewing. So that's getting done. But yeah, that was all he asked me.
So do we know how to go about using this information?
I mean, I think a really broad, obvious thing is let's look where there are trees that are ailing, and then let's look at them and see where they actually are, because some of them that are ailing they're really on private property.
Exactly.
Right.
But
and
the
so we don't really
code-
have any
the
don't have any
code-
real right. I'm not gonna be like, hey,
it's really, we're between a rock and a hard place, because the code says that the residents are responsible for these things, and yet if we let them know that their tree is ailing, does that mean that they're responsible if something happens to somebody walking by?
Right.
I just don't know how to do this, how to proceed. I guess maybe, go ahead, Dwight.
Recall one thing, that previously you've defined trees between the sidewalk and the curb as the responsibility of the village.
Have we?
Yeah, I think and we've planted trees in those places.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically one of our.
And
It's
if
only
there
one of
is
the
no
places-
green space between the sidewalk and the curb, if it was within 4 feet, I think, of the curb, it would be the village responsibility. So those are the ones where there could be liability if you had a tree failure and someone got hurt.
Well, there could still be liability, but it's liability village versus homeowner, right? I mean, if we tell someone, hey, that tree that's 25 feet in, we know that it was assessed as a dangerous tree. We tell somebody, and now is on record that tree is a hazard, and so the homeowner's been informed by the survey, and so then that puts liability on them too. So I hear what Christine is saying. Do we really want to go knocking on doors and be like, hey, you got this dead tree here? But maybe we look and see, maybe we just try to look at that that low-lying fruit of like trees that are in our purvey within that distance from the curb and or in between, like Dwight is saying. Maybe we just look at those trees first.
Okay.
What's that?
That's
makes sense.
sensible. Yeah, to do that, in the grassy strip or 4 feet. All right,
I'm
so
not
let's-
sure that's the responsibility of the Shade Tree Commission, though. That should be the DPW.
Well, that was my next question. So if we have the information to dispense, then who deals with
Well,
the?
so do they. This is, this wasn't exclusive to the Shade Tree Commission, the tree inventory. That was on behalf of the town.
Yes, but
Was it not?
but we could be the group that says, well, all right, what are we going to do with this, and try to push it along if we're looking at trying to maintain the streetscape, having safe trees. So I was just, we have.
I get the sense that they deal with trees as they're notified about them. I don't know if they're doing like.
I would
They
be
have on
shocked
the
if
set-
there is a budget item for tree care or.
Yeah,
tree
like, I don't
maintenance.
know. I don't know if that's something that they have on a calendar where they're like, okay, once a week we go around and we look at trees. I almost feel like it's like if they happen to see it, or if someone calls and says they saw something, that's probably how they're dealing with it. I think it's something that I think it would be helpful to have a village board liaison to say whether or not you guys putting the effort in to act as like the eyes for DPW so they don't have to worry about it. I don't know if they would feel that that's encroaching a little bit. So I feel like this would be a good conversation for the village board to kind of consider if they think it would be a helpful idea. So that's another thing I can run by Ariana. And she can bring it to Tim or KT or whoever and see what they think about that. But I think that would be a good first step, because you don't want your first step to like make the DPW feel like you're,
Oh, right. No,
you know what I mean?
absolutely.
Like, so I think bringing that item to the village board is a good first step in figuring out the best way to use
Yeah.
that inventory
Yeah,
thing,
and-
what you guys could do.
Right. And I don't want to, I keep asking, but Michelle is our liaison? Wouldn't she be the person to help with this?
She is, but I did learn some information, so I will tell you about it offline.
Okay.
So once the meeting is over, I'll text you or call you or something.
Okay. So those are my 2 things, Sally's tree and what to do with this wealth of information. And so, or anything, but I think somebody should do something with it. It costs a bunch of money and a bunch of time and valuable. So
I spent like 3 hours looking at it the other night. It's interesting. I think the key for me is I've got to actually like pull it off on my phone and then walk around so I can see the real, because it's like it's a little wacky, and it's not. I mean, I can already see a few places where it's not 100% accurate as to place or species, or so like some of it's probably sorting out what they meant or perceived when they said, oh, that's this tree. But yeah, it's super interesting, super fascinating data. I guess I thought too, like, so do we have that remainder of the budget? We're just gonna, are we going to let that go, or should we let that go and just say, you know what, this is a hard year, like that's, planting trees isn't the priority for the village. I don't know, but I know there was some budget left over, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it's
How about using the money that's left over to help certain trees that need some taking care of, and it might be costly, that are important trees that, we might feel that they're good, important trees, such as the one on Main and Chestnut, which needs some help, some pruning, the big chestnut tree that's in the garden on the corner of Main and Chestnut. And maybe if there's money left over, instead of letting it just go down the drain, that it could be used, for example, to help prune that tree or something. That's a very big priority of mine.
I think just to get back to, I like the idea of being proactive, but I also, like Dwight had a good point, is this Shade Trees budget is not nearly big enough to fund any significant tree work in the village. Like that, like Dwight, how much does like $2,000 do for your crew? Like how many?
A day and a half,
Yeah. How many
Uh,
trees are in the village?
However, there are important tasks. For example, the pin oaks from the four corners at North Front and Main Street, the pin oaks across from the bank, running up toward the village
Mhm.
courthouse.
Yeah.
You know, they're all in trouble. They're all stressed.
Yeah.
And yet the pin oaks that were planted at the entrance, one of them's doing terrifically, and the other one is not too bad.
Yeah.
The reason is pin oaks planted next to the sidewalk amongst all of that cement and mortar.
Mhm.
It affects the root system in a very negative way. So they need help. If there's some that are really stressed, and you can see 40% dead in the crown.
Yeah.
So, a day of trimming and fertilizing might really
Might make
turn
a difference
those
for those trees.
around a bit. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it needs to be targeted. Whatever monies either the commission has or the village wants to put forth needs to be targeted.
Okay, so let's say, just hypothetically, we target the pin oaks and the chestnut, the horse chestnut, for pruning and remediation. That would probably be a good way to use up that money. And then, because
instead of wasting it, if we're going to lose it, we
because
should use it.
would we lose it if we didn't use it? Does anybody know?
That's a question beyond my pay grade.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how that works. Like, I don't know if it would get added to your budget for, I think it is, because I'm thinking of like the building department, like by the end of the fiscal year, it's like, what can we buy kind of thing. So I feel like it might be kind of like, if you have it, you should use it. But I also don't know how that's working this year with everything. Like, I don't know if it would be more helpful to the village, economically, to not spend through the budget or not. Like, I can ask Nancy what she says. I'm sure she would know if it's more helpful to spend it or to not spend it. But I think that's an important question. So I will.
Yeah. So if we would lose it, and times are tough everywhere, but we do have this money, and we do need to do these, this remediation. Maybe we should say, okay, we'll target the pin oaks and the horse chestnut, and plant Sally's tree, and it's not a bad record for what we've done this year, given the situation.
I don't think so. And it makes sense to me to take care of the trees you already have.
Right.
And make sure they're healthy, and especially ones that are in like prime location, prime real estate, and they really, help the town, and everyone loves the tree.
Yeah.
Take care of it instead of let it just, if no one takes care of it and it's in a prime location and it's an important tree, it seems like that would be a really appropriate expenditure for that money, especially if we're going to lose it.
Right. So we can investigate that, and maybe for next meeting have a plan. But if we did decide to do this, then do we have to have bids for the people, for the arborists, or can we just pay Dwight? I don't know.
Bids are required, I think, when it's a certain amount of money.
For
and I think it's a significant amount of money. I think it's like if you were spending if something was 20 grand, you would need to notice, like the village board would need to approve a bid, and it would have to be in the paper, and it would have to be like,
well, we only have we have $3,500. So if we're looking
at so it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be a bid. I think it would just have to go through Blue.
DPW. Yeah. And I could find out if we have to have competitive bids or.
Yeah, I don't think you do with the amount that you'd be looking to spend. There's like a trigger amount that would have to.
Also, you want to have someone that you can trust doing it. And, starting with bids, and it's like, just because it's a cheaper bid doesn't mean that we want to go with them.
Yeah, if you do bid, you're legally required to go with like the lowest amount, unless there's like,
But we could choose who we would ask to look at it and have, you know, reputable, who we thought were reputable people.
yeah. But again, I don't think that's gonna be
Okay,
an issue.
all right. So, anything else?
Not
Can
from
we,
me.
can we adjourn?
You can, I just need a
Um,
motion.
Can I just stick in a little information about trees and plants real
Of
quick?
course, yes.
The garden club is having a fall plant sale. There are going to be trees, bushes, bulbs, all kinds of stuff on October 10th at Mark, what's his name? Right there across from the Ulster Savings Bank. No, no. They're on his. It's going to be October 10th. Tons of bulbs, plants, seeds, all the stuff
Okay.
that we're selling for our scholarship, which is $1,000 that we give every year. So just to let you guys know, if you know, would want to go, if you know anybody that would want to go.
Do you have a like flyer for that or anything?
Yes,
I can post
Yeah,
it. I can post it on the village website if you would like. You just need to send it.
that would be so awesome. Can I just send it to your phone number?
You can just send it to my email. Would be better, if you
You
can.
know what? I'm going to write it down. What's your email?
It's just planningzoning@villageofnewpaltz.org.
Shelly, send me that flyer too. I'll post it in our Facebook group.
That's great. All right. Planning zoning at village.
Of newpaltz.org.
All right. Thank you, guys. That's great.
Good. Okay, so
Motion to adjourn?
adjourn.
Is there a second?
I do.
Thank you.
I have a question. Can I weigh in with motion? I have to do the motion, but can I just then second something? I can't.
Yeah,
right?
you can. So
Oh, okay.
it's really easy.
I just didn't
So
know.
there's two things that can happen. You can request a motion or you
Okay.
can make a motion yourself.
Oh, okay.
You request a motion, you say, can I get a motion to close? And then someone would say, so motioned. And then there would be a second. And then you would say like, all for it. And you'd all say aye. And then it passes.
Okay. We continue to learn these things.
So you got it.
I know I can do
We're
the
good.
area of a cube. I can tell you how to do that. All right.
Okay, so I will, I'm gonna text, Christine, I'll text you once the meeting is over and let you know what's going on with
Okay.
the village
Great.
stuff. Okay,
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Au revoir.
Okay.
Night, everybody.
have a good one.
Bye.